Okay, we're starting.
Hello.
Joyeuse Journée Asexualité.
Just load the game.
Today I am puzzling Sharky because he does not know any French.
Of course I don't know any French. Well. Every time I see that,
Heck!
I hear it.
Hi,
Every time
Heck.
I see you say that, I hear it in, what's his face's voice? Crap, I already forget his name.
I don't know who you're talking about, so, you know, can't help
Graves'
you there.
ex.
Huh?
Graves' ex.
Oh, knocked.
Yes. I hear it in my knocked voice every time Heck says, well.
Okay, kitten. Damn, an X. Yeah, he's the big bad in another game we played.
Yeah, he is a big bad in another game we played.
And we never found out all the details of what went down between them. Still salty.
Also, like, we don't actually know if they dated. It seems like it's heavily implied they dated.
It's pretty clearly implied. Because he's like, I wanted to see you. And he's like, well, I didn't want to see you. That's why I left. They have a touching stare-down moment between the two of them. It was very, like, pretty clearly.
That was a pretty fun game, though.
It was great. I still am waiting to find a goth cat cafe owner who loves coffee in real life, please.
You're never gonna find that.
I know. That's already me.
You're not a cat cafe owner.
I know, but I am a cat owner, and I've literally had a friend say that she would, like, invest if I opened a cat cafe. She would help invest in it.
Just don't hire me as one of your workers.
Why the fuck would I hire you? You're a dog person.
Exactly. I'd be a bad cat cafe worker. Especially if you try to curse me.
You would be an Avery bad end where you run away.
Take your job and stick it up your meow 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 meow.
Uh-huh. I mean, that's what would happen, right?
Yeah, basically.
Anyway, happy Wednesday. Joyeuse Journée Asexualité.
One of these days, I'll start uploading to YouTube.
Uh-huh. One of these days, he says, after already having set up the YouTube because I made him. But he still hasn't done it.
Yeah, I also don't have the image, and we don't have a banner.
Well, get me your access to Photoshop and we will.
Yeah. I'll do that after that. Actually, I can do that while we're doing this.
Okay. Alright, well, are we ready?
Yep.
Do you want to read first? Should I read first?
You can read first.
To the woman who will marry my husband, as you are doubtlessly aware, it is traditional for a nobleman's mother to write poetic admonitions to be sent to the bride-to-be before she enters the family, explaining the circumstances and proffering advice to her. Sadly, your mother-in-law is long since departed, leaving the responsibility in my hands. I never had any such letters sent to me for reasons which I'll explain soon enough, and I have furthermore studied verse only enough to know that I am unable to write it well. I hope you do not think less of me, young pale bride, for addressing these letters in plain speech instead. Rather, pay attention to my words over my form, and please do not be hasty in erasing these letters after reading, for your own sake. I hope you will find the advice and knowledge I will impart on you useful. Your turn.
To the woman who will marry my husband. As you are no doubt aware, The Ryu family has an extremely long and proud history. Every man to hold the title Captain and Emperor has always been of our house, and you are here to make sure that continues for another generation. The name goes all the way back to the ancient times. Mythology speaks of a Captain Ryu who had control of even the ship's movement through the stars themselves. Such things remain far removed from everyday life, but it is important to understand the significance of the house, and of the title that your first son will eventually come to inherit.
Here is a letter telling you why your new husband is actually very important. To the woman who will marry my husband, it is an obvious matter that I do have the same family name as my husband. The official story, if you have not already heard it, is that we are cousins, making our marriage improper and less than ideal, but somewhat acceptable given the circumstances. At the time, there were no noble daughters who had not already been promised or given away in marriage, and obviously a girl of any lesser upbringing could not possibly be suitable as a queen. Hence, cousins would simply have to do. Strictly speaking, this is all true. The part about there not being any noble daughters available is not a misrepresentation. And as far as any official genealogy is concerned, the Emperor is the son of my father's brother. The part which you may not speak of openly is that he is the old Emperor's son only by adoption. As far as blood goes, my husband is also my brother. As children, we never lived together, and it would, of course, have been strictly improper to have spent any time together at that age. I would never say anything such as that my husband actually arranged for there to be no noble daughters to marry out of his desire to marry me. That would, of course, be a rather bold move to accuse an emperor of such. But you may wish to consider what the implications might be if such a thing truly did happen. I leave it to you to decide whether or not such a thing is possible. All I will say is that despite our marriage being one of necessity, my husband has always been very fond of me. Alright, we're Game of Thrones this shit.
Okay.
That's awkward.
Sorry, I was just changing some stuff so that you'll be able to access.
Okay, but you caught what that whole letter was, right?
I caught some of it. I caught the whole,
He is my brother?
Yeah. But they're cousins!
Cousins like Sailor Moon.
See, I understand that one.
Do you?
In the localization, they changed the lesbian relationship to being cousins, and they're just really close.
Yes, that.
I knew that one. The only thing I know about Sailor Moon.
Yes, there's that, and at some points, as my roommate has showed me, that only makes it more awkward.
Yeah. Reading time for me?
I mean, I assume we're going back and forth.
Yes. To the woman who will marry my husband. As for responsibilities, your burden will be quite light. You will, of course, be expected to be the model of feminine virtue, but truthfully, I don't expect you will have very much trouble with this. So long as you keep your head down, avoid scandal, and keep quiet, that will more than suffice. As far as the day-to-day is concerned, you will have nothing to concern yourself with, as this is the royal family you are marrying into. As queen, I run the management of her house's affairs, and will not require any assistance from you. In that regard, as part of the royal concubine's demonstration of modesty, you will have to share my own personal servant, and will not have one of your own. While you will not have to be responsible for all housework, be modest and do not remain idle at her expense. You are expected to be as unseen as the servants, and to be voiceful only in the most moderation. Do not speak harshly to your servant, and be appreciative of what she does, and not incompassionate.
Appreciate the working class. I approve.
Ew, I gotta share servants? Your one sole responsibility will be spending as much time with the Emperor as it takes to produce a son. After you give birth, you will not need to worry about raising him. I will be there to make sure that that is all arranged for. Simply make our husband happy, keep out of sight, and give him a son, and you will have no more to worry yourself with.
Sounds like a lot. You have to, have sex and make a baby.
Have sex, get pregnant, have kid. Get out of the way.
That sounds awful. To the woman who will marry my husband, the virtues which you are expected to demonstrate are simply those expected of any woman, and given your noble upbringing, I will not condescend to treat you as if you do not already know them quite well. You are expected to be quiet and obedient, to me as well as obviously to our husband. Perchance you are scolded. Trust my judgment as your elder. I will never act out of anger or spite. If scolded by our husband, always respond with a smile, for your relationship with him must always be warm, and he is a wise man. I do not, however, anticipate such things will be problems. He told me of the interview in which he spoke to you, and had nothing to report at all on your manner of speech, so I trust it was entirely proper and polite. In light of that, I will say nothing further of the matter. As far as ritual obligations go, you have none, save for following in my lead. Both your mother and father-in-law are long dead, so you have no further obligations to them. I had trouble adjusting at first, but I anticipate nothing you could be surprised by.
You don't have to do anything except for shut up and have a kid.
Shut up, have sex, produce male kid.
Male kid, yes. Specifically male kid. To the woman who will marry my husband, I will not tell you to avoid court politics entirely, so long as you do not cause trouble, but I will suggest that you simply walk from a distance. The temptation may exist to meddle, especially if you ever talk to the artificial girl Mute, who lives inside our computer. She is a gossip and a friend of the Smith noble family, and is responsible for revealing much of what they try to keep hidden. She may seem fickle, but she does belong to the house for you, first and foremost, and is quite loyal. Nevertheless, meddling is not in your best interests. Do not play politics, not only for our sake, or for the sake of being a virtuous wife, but for the sake of your own family as well. They will receive favor not through any scheming on your part, but through our husband's will. Entertain yourself with gossip if you wish, so long as you keep quiet about it, but stay out of politics. In the end, you will manage to go much farther if you rely only on rewards for being a good wife.
I want to show this one to Mute.
Just cause it calls her out.
Yep. She's a gossip.
Show it. Call her out.
She's right in what she instructed the pale bride, but man, I don't really agree with her assertion there. I wasn't a gossip. Look, yeah, I'm a social creature, of course. That's my job. I'm glad that my mistress valued me, but I don't really like the way she's characterizing me as just being some chattery, gossiping woman. I was always way better than that. I wish she'd have realized it.
No. Do you want me to read it?
I mean, I read the last one, right?
Did you read the... I thought I just read the last one.
Oh.
I'll read
Okay,
it.
well, I can read it then.
Okay.
My fear of the pale bride, it seems, was unfounded. In my letters to her I wrote that I was not jealous. A lie, of course. As queen, it is true that I have authority over any of my husband's other wives, but that authority certainly not extend to his affections, especially since she is a beautiful woman, girl of only 15 years, and I am a withered old lady 20 years her senior. I would be a fool not to be jealous of a teenager that my husband is about to fuck because pedophilia is accepted in society.
I'm a withered old 35-year-old.
Yep.
I'm dying.
Didn't you know? Women past the age of 25 are expired Christmas cakes.
What?
That's a term.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like so a Christmas cake is for Christmas, right?
Yes.
Christmas is the 25th. So, if you're 26 or older and still unmarried, apparently the term, which has apparently been pushed back a little bit now to like maybe roughly 30 or something, but it was...
Oh, that's so much better.
Yeah, it was like Christmas cake if you're not married by like 25, or at least if you don't have like a steady boyfriend that you seem like on the path to get married to by 25, then you are past expiration and now you are an expired Christmas cake.
I don't know what game I was playing, but I had a wife in the game, and it said that term. Asked if I wanted her killed. Wow.
But if she's your wife in the game, then she's not a Christmas cake, expired Christmas cake anymore.
I have never heard that term.
I believe it's more of an Asian thing from what I heard. And yet I am not. Until she officially married my husband, I had only seen her briefly at the formal interview. Aside from her beauty, she had made hardly any impression. But now she is living in my house, and I have seen more of her while she is not busy attending to the Emperor. And I realize now I have no cause for jealousy that is any fault of hers. She hasn't spoken a single word to me, and only looks at me from a distance. At first I mistook this for arrogance, as though she thought me unworthy of approaching. I realized soon that is not so. I see no smugness in her eyes, nor do I see happiness, nor sadness, nor anything else. She is afraid of me. Not the sort of fear that would show in her eyes, the sort of fear that would paralyze or leave her on edge. It is hardly noticeable at all, and yet I can tell. Her fear is that of resignation. The sort of fear where one simply waits for what one believes inevitable, whatever it is that she thinks I will do to her. She is not afraid that I will be jealous, she knows it, and is simply waiting for the consequences. I cannot be jealous of a woman like that. I feel for her. I want her to feel welcome. I want to give her the hope she's clearly lost back. It is not out of jealousy that I say I earnestly want her to understand how lucky she is. When last I saw her, I took her aside and said, "Please, you do not have to fear me. If you ever wish to talk to me, please do find me." She said nothing, but she did smile a little. I have seen her smile before, but only in a hollow way where the mouth moves but no emotion stirs in the eyes. This was not that kind. I can hardly say what the twinkle in her eyes meant, but at least I don't think it was resignation. I do hope she talks to me soon, for her own sake.
The twinkle in her eyes was the twinkle of murder.
What's that? Psychopath? Psychopath murderess?
Well, sounds like it, yeah.
I mean, that's your interpretation from that message. Do we want to go back and show any other ones to mute?
When?
Or just the one
year?
where she got called a...
What year did, was it 322 or 323 was it the last year that, they saw people?
Oh, hey, there's a new thing in this block, too.
Oh, hey. Do you remember?
Oh, when everything died?
Yeah.
I think it was 322 because then it was 622 and 944.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay. I was just trying to get timeline straight because that was what? That was like March of, yeah, 322 is when all the.
Everyone's dead in 322.
Because that last one that you just read was like March of 321. Interesting.
Pale bride married in 321.
So she lasted a year before supposedly murdering everyone.
What's this new thing in block 4?
That must have been a really long year.
Ooh, morning dress. This was a few years before that, so.
Yeah, this is a while before. Normally, my conversations with Mute are of a rather frivolous nature. Gossip in the affairs of some of the more important noble houses, as well as her trying to bait whatever she is able out of me. While I think such a flow of information is valuable, so I might pass news to my husband that he might not otherwise hear, I would not consider her attitude to have any resemblance to seriousness. Wow, calling you out.
So we're gonna show her this one too.
Exactly.
Right?
Previously, I had assumed that this was simply impossible due to her nature. While I do not really understand how, despite her explanations, anyone could live inside a computer screen, she says that she is an artificial person. I had assumed that, perhaps, her absence of a soul prevented her from feeling serious emotions. Oh, Mute to Heartless, got it. Ordinarily, she wears incredibly bold, colorful clothing, her golden hair absurdly well adorned. For the past month, however, she has been uncharacteristically humble, wearing an unappealing brown dress with her hair undecorated. My curiosity got the better of me at last.
For heck, Ryu Jae-hwa is, one, the person writing these, but two, she is the queen, and she is currently married to Captain Ryu, who is the emperor. But she has been unable to produce a son for him, and so she is still the queen and like the main wife of the emperor. But
these are all notes from obviously 620 years ago, so it's just was queen at one point before death.
I mean, all of them are dead now, so all of this is at one point before death.
Not one of them, apparently.
I mean, technically she's dead. She's just also thing.
Not. I mean, that also gets into the argument of what does it mean to be alive.
Oh, I meant her physical body.
Ordinarily, she wears. Please, I have wondered, why are you so attired? It is unlike you, I asked. She gave me an odd look. Huh? She asked, it's morning dress. That much was obvious, and not particularly the thrust of my question. Did you not tell me you were thousands of years old, and that you have no family? For what reason are you wearing mourning? She gave me an annoyed look. Friend of mine died, okay? No, I don't have a family. It's always been just me. But this guy was a really good friend, and he definitely deserves that kind of respect, she said. We were super close. Do you wish to tell me about him, I asked? She She gave me another look that I couldn't quite read, but seemed somehow sad. Nah, she said, I don't want to talk about it. Not now. I miss him too much. Hey, I'm going to go now, okay? I'll talk to you later. I said goodbye to her and she disappeared from the computer screen. But as she did, I could have sworn that I saw her start to cry.
So now we're going to show this to Mute for a different reason.
Yes! Who's the friend? Tell us, Mute. Be sad all over again.
Well, yeah. She probably did see me cry. I had a really hard time talking about it then, especially not to my mistress. I really didn't mean to be so vulnerable in front of her, but that just isn't proper. Kind of embarrassing, really. I'm sure you've already guessed, but yeah, the man in question was Smith Sungjung. Strictly speaking, there was no real mourning obligation. It's not like I was really family. Still, the man was the closest thing to a husband to me. I mean, don't take this the wrong way. It's hardly scandalous. I'm not a real woman. I'm just a computer. We had a really close relationship. So, yeah, I thought it'd be appropriate if I honored him like he was. He never married, so it's not like anyone else would. I just figured the man deserved that much. He totally deserved at least that much. Sigh.
Wow. Did we get anything out of that? Darn.
No, but I'm wondering, do we have anything written by him that we can show her?
No, Block 10's all, the queen. Young Suk. Pale Bride.
No.
No. If we still had the one thing I accidentally got deleted.
If only we remembered the document ID.
Could we even search for it? Could we even search for it?
I mean, it says type the document ID and press enter to search. So I feel like maybe, but I'm not sure.
Wait, what if you show one of the other Smith stuff?
Like some of Smith Kyung Sum?
Yeah. Wait, wasn't there one about the funeral? Wasn't there one of the letters about the funeral? Maybe show her that one. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, we've gone through this stuff before. We could ask for the general history this time.
Yee.
Maybe we'd get something about that guy.
Go for it.
Oh, sure. It's all very fascinating stuff. Problem is, somebody encrypted it all in such a way that I can't actually access it at all. No way I can. Captor's orders, and unfortunately, I'm literally incapable of disobeying.
But I'm the captain now.
But if you have admin access, you can get to them yourself. Just type decrypt block 3 from the console, and that'll open it all up.
I wonder what we're going to do now. We're gonna hack into the Matrix.
Hacking into the mainframe. I
What
wonder.
happens if you try to decrypt block 1?
I was about to say, like...
We have 2... about 5.
Well... I'm like, they might not be... well, actually, wait. See, I'm like, I kind of wonder if it's not like open up this block of data. It's just like unencrypt it so that the AIs can access to give to us.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like you've gotten the decryption sorted out. Great. I can, in fact, see everything in that block now. Where did you even get admin access from, anyway? Only the Ryu family was supposed to have that, and it's not like Hyune could tell an unauthorized person. Weird.
She kinda did.
Utterly weird. Well, anyway, I've got them. So here you have it. Sorted, sealed files of the Smith family.
Now, why were they sealed? That's my question.
Are there only two? I guess there's only two.
Well, until we
show her things. Yeah. Should I read it? Do you want to read it?
I think I read the last one. So you can go.
These past few months have left me so very anxious with anticipation. Nearly a year has passed since the wedding ceremony, and before this week, Sungmin had only visited my family once, promising he would bring me home with him for sure the next time. I know I'm supposed to be enjoying living with my parents while it lasts, but all I can think about is my husband. How is a new bride expected to have such patience? For nearly a year, a day hasn't gone by where I haven't thought of how beautiful he thought me in my wedding dress, or how it felt spending that night held so gently in his strong hands.
Ugh.
Looking forward to the day where I could live in his house. I can't help but feel as anxious in my heart as I am excited in my hips. Ugh.
Oh my gosh!
I know. It is ungraceful to think of such things, but how can I help myself? In any event, he arrived yesterday to take me with him to his ancestral shrine, and then finally his home! Such luxury I've never seen in my life. A servant to prepare meals, entirely separate women's quarters, and a dining room with a window that shows the stars. My family was hardly all that poor, but a window to the stars? How amazing a sight! I knew that I was lucky to have been married into a noble family, but I never realized just how lucky. I wonder if I'll have time to write as much as I used to. Oh, but I must stop for tonight now. I can hear my husband coming. I have been looking forward to this night for so long now. How I hope I can make him happy. Just hearing his footsteps outside the door makes my heart pound.
Man, this is just making me flash back to high school.
Probably was about high school age.
Where a bunch of the kids were like, hey, I can't wait to get married so I can have sex. That's all I care about is the sex part of it.
I mean, apparently they've been married for like a year.
Yeah! To the wife of Senkyu, you can probably put this more diplomatically than I can, because I'm pretty sure younger brother is still thoroughly pissed off at me. You know how he is, of course. I don't have the time to deal with that, especially when I'm already doing him a huge favor. The bad news is, I made an appeal to the captain and emperor himself personally, but he said there was no position that a man of Sunkyu's skill set could possibly fulfill. I did most certainly plead, but let's face it, what official role could that man possibly fill? He's an idiot. Don't pass on that last part. He already knows. I did, however, speak to the park son, and was able to convince him to forget the whole incident. It wasn't cheap, I might add. I'll continue to send your family a regular stipend, but please, keep your husband under control. I can't afford to keep cleaning up after his...
damned
fights. Which one of the... Oh, that was Sangmin?
So, here's Sangmin.
Yeah.
Complaining about Sangkyu. over
to his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hwangmin, Sungkyu. And then Sungjung was the one that she was mourning.
Which I know we have a letter about the funeral. That was like one of the first ones we got, I think.
Yeah, it was. What was that? Block 4? Yes.
A pack of idiots, yeah.
Let's see, this is...
The turning point was at the funeral. In that family, there were 3 brothers, blah, 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 blah.
That isn't what Smith Sungjung was like at all. His death was a tragedy, and for a lesser man to make light of it. It's appalling is what it is. Can you believe his nerve? Fine, Sungjung never married, and he liked to drink maybe a little more than was good for him. But he was a great man. Clever, charming, filial and respectful. Look, he wasn't perfect. He was as damn close as you could get, though. Still has a crush. 600 plus years later.
Well, Mute was turned off for probably half of it.
If you'd been able to talk to him, you'd fall in love for sure. Completely. I mean, even before she got turned off, that was 7 years after his death.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what he was really like? Don't listen to a single word from the likes of Kyung-sam. Here's a more fitting depiction. I've added some logs that actually do him justice. You should really read them.
Good. I do want to know what he's like. Because this whole thing is a mess.
I mean, we haven't really been asking her much about, Hyunnae.
About what? Oh, yeah.
And the murders and everything.
Yeah. We've been asking about all of the other stuff that might not even matter.
So which one do you want to read?
Well, I assume the Mute one's going to you. Let's do... drank himself to death. As horrible as it is to say, I don't think anyone was really surprised when brother-in-law Sang-jun was found dead. Nobody asked how, nor has anyone as much as mentioned the word drinking in my presence since. Even the ordinarily extremely candid Mute has been entirely somber.
Wait, one sec. Osojin.
Sangmin's wife, yeah.
Sungmin.
Or Sungmin, yeah.
Say the names correctly. Respect Asian names.
Mother-in-law, I understand why she's been taking it so hard, and have been working hard to stay well out of her way while the funeral preparations are being settled. But Mute? I had no idea they were so close, yet in our last conversation, could have sworn she was on the verge of tears. I had never seen such a reaction from her in all my time here. As for myself, I have an awful confession I can make to no one. I have put on a somber face, acting as though I'm as sad as the rest, since that is, of course, what is expected. But it pains me to admit that I'm not. It is not as if I don't find it tragic, and I feel bad for thinking this, but I didn't know him at all. How could I possibly bring myself to feel as upset as I'm expected to be? I don't blame you,
I mean,
Sojin.
I feel like my question here is that Mute showed this to us as an example log of what he was really like.
Yes.
What does this actually tell us about what he was really like, considering that, like, this is someone saying, oh, I wasn't surprised. It was clearly because of drinking, and I'm not actually that sad because I didn't really know him.
I mean, it does say that, like, it probably shows that, like, the only thing I could see is that his family cared about him a lot.
So you're saying that his family cared about him a lot, demonstrated by the fact that his sister-in-law feels no sadness.
I mean, I was going to say something, but what I was going to say is probably rude to a lot of married people.
Say
so
it.
Sister-in-law, that's not family.
Oof.
Yes! Which is why I'm like, I have a bad history with my family, which I understand is not...
Well, Heck is the only one married here, and Heck thinks it's funny, so I think that's an approval. A transcription fragment of a conversation held with Sangjung. Oh, that was how I knew shit had gotten serious. He actually agreed to let me paint the drinking house we went to. My oldest brother only ever humors me when he's really trying to get on my good side. It's never a good sign. Wait. Oh, okay. I guess this is Smith Sangjung speaking.
Oh, should I write it then?
No, I can read it.
Okay.
I'm just like, what's happening?
Yeah, no,
Mute's not. Yeah. So I guess
doesn't have an older brother.
She has no family. She said that.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out who the speaker was.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, oh, okay, this is Sangjung speaking to Mute. Well, I mean, it's good for me, but certainly not for him. I'm sure a classy lady such as yourself wouldn't be familiar with this kind of place. No, you know the sort. Tucked away in an interior deck, lots of wood furniture that's been stained, and not intentionally, with just enough commoners milling about to give a good background soundtrack. Oh, and it's run by a woman. Nice lady, too. So it's that sort of place. We arranged to meet up at the door. It's been a while, brother. I'm sorry I couldn't speak to you sooner, he said, trying to be polite. You're full of shit, I said. But hey, it is good to see you. So what do you want? I meant it, he said. He's a bad, bad liar. So why here, anyway? At that point, the owner came by asking what we'd like. The only real thing you need to know about Journée is that she's around my age, she's got the biggest tits I've ever seen in my life, and she dresses like a commoner, so you can certainly see them. Oh, God.
Which one's the oldest brother again?
Sangmin.
Okay.
Sangjung seems to be the youngest, actually.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Bring your finest soju, I ordered. Please, she responded. You can't afford our finest. Totally not true, by the way. My reputation for being a cheap drunk, completely unfounded. Honest, I have no idea where people get these crazy ideas from. Anyway, far be it from me to argue. I just replied, maybe not, but my brother can. I mean, I knew he was going to ask me for money. That was obvious. Might as well get as much as I could out of him before giving whatever he wanted, right? Fine, we'll be sharing that, he said. Then he added, but how much to share it with you too? She blushed. Amazing, really. She's got a lot of practice dealing with people like my brother. But I saved her the misery of having to flirt back with him. Do you really need more of that kind of trouble right now? With that, he let her go. Anyway, drinks came. We argued about the loose definition of finest, our servers' tits, and the good old days when father was still alive and we didn't have to work out our problems ourselves. The biggest bullshit ever, I said, is that we're expected to be responsible men here. How'd that happen? He laughed and was now drunk enough to start taking cheap shots. Is that why you've never bothered to be one? Ouch, I said. Damn it, hurry up and pour me more. I'll drink to that. He poured but didn't say anything. Alright, so what is it that you want? I'm getting the impression that you have a problem. You want discretion because you're talking to me. Right, brother? I was right. So where did you put it this time, brother? I asked. Put what? He replied. Oh, cut the shit, I said. We both know full well that all your problems in life have always, without fail, stemmed from you putting your dick somewhere you shouldn't have. He grunted in disagreement, but it's totally true. Was it at least a female this time? A female! This time. Swear to my father, our brother was just right about to punch me. Didn't though. Instead he just downed his drink. Yeah, that's the damn problem, he said. She's saying she hasn't bled in 2 months now. A courtesan. I promised him I'd help. Better she gets bought out by me than by my brother, the high magistrate. Less suspicious that way, and involves nothing unlawful. Believe me now? A proper damn gentleman, that's me. A female. Yep.
So the oldest brother has the exact same problem that Zeus has. Can't keep his dick in his pants.
I feel like Zeus was very straight, though. Wasn't he?
I think there was a few cases, but a lot of the times it was women.
I can't think of any of the times when it wasn't women. But that's probably because half the stories are Zeus slept with another woman and Hera's pissed again.
Or you became a goose and slept with a woman.
I mean, Hera's pissed again and then is taking it out on the woman and her now Zeus child. Because Zeus also seemed to impregnate the women, like, all the fucking time.
Yeah, that's basically all the gods in those stories. Is they had sex, the person has a child now.
Well, you know, if they just had sex with a god, it wouldn't be any news, I guess. Apparently.
Yeah, that's why Aphrodite is never in the news. She just sleeps with Ares.
I'm still just like, wait, so this is what she is choosing to show us to give us a better idea of him?
Yes!
Okay, mute.
Look, she has a crush, so her viewpoint is a little skewed.
Mm-hmm. And in 7 years, she never corrected it.
A little skewed.
A little bit.
My husband was out of the house as he usually is during the day, so our servant fetched me instead to tell me that someone was at the door. I was in the middle of a conversation with Mute, but had no idea how I was expected to respond to that. Excuse me. What do? I asked her. She just responded in that usual shocking, crass manner of hers. Gee, I don't know. Could try answering the door, maybe. Just a thought, of course. Good job, Mute. So I excused her and went to do that. But with a great degree of nervousness. I had never done this before. Ooh. At the door was my youngest brother-in-law, Sangjun.
Sangjun.
Who I had only met a few times before, although husband mentioned him often enough, usually in the same breath as calling him an irresponsible drunk. Seeing him did nothing short of compound my anxieties. Hello, sir, I stammered. Sojin, he responds, with unbelievable volume. I know!
You see this I? You see how to pronounce it?
Like beat? Really?
E. Jin.
Okay. I'm trying. I am.
Yes. I want you to remember that one of us is Asian is going to be a stickler for making sure that you show the same respect to Asian names as you would to non-Asian names. Because it's important to get it right.
I understand, and I am very much trying to make sure I get it right.
Then don't get defensive.
Where was I?
Unbelievable volume.
It's great to see you again. Hope you don't mind me dropping by unannounced. I just figured I haven't seen my new niece yet, and it's been forever since I've been in the old house. So, well, I thought I'd stop by, say hello to your daughter. Wait, they had a kid?
They did?
Daughter, so I guess not listed.
I guess not.
I don't know. Sorry, my husband isn't home right now. Maybe you should come back later, I said, shifting uncomfortably. Oh, please, be a good girl. Let me come see her. I'm really not here for your husband. This was awkward. I'm really not, I didn't expect exactly, yeah. I'm having a really bad time reading. Didn't exactly want to turn away my brother-in-law, especially if he just wanted to see baby Minhee. But this was hardly proper. Say that again?
Minhee.
Okay. It really wouldn't be my place. Sorry. You'll have to wait until my husband gets back. I trailed off. He rolled his eyes and smiled at me. Really? Come now, you're a smarter woman than that, he said, and put his hand on my shoulder. This had now moved on to incredibly uncomfortable. You really value his authority that much? He's my husband, I responded. What else could I say? He replied. What else could I say? He replied, wow, no wonder he walks all over you. That's how you treat him. You have got a lot to learn about dealing with men, dear Sojin. Especially my brother. But come on now, this is a bad conversation for a doorway. Can I see my niece? I hear she's rather adorable. Took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I said, trying to be as bold as I could. I'm going to have to go now. Sorry. I started to close the door on him.
I feel like his only redeeming merit here seems to be that he's not the same degree of sexist. Or maybe just a slightly different shade of sexist that at least believe that women have brains.
All right, I understand. I'll talk to him myself later. Don't worry, I won't mention this visit. Do say hello to her mother for me, though, he said, and left. My heart nearly skipped a beat when he said those words. I stood there in the doorway for a good while, stunned. Even now, I still have much to think about. Not simply his knowledge of our child's true mother, matter of great secrecy, but also of what he said about my husband. Perhaps his words were true.
Awkward.
So yeah, Mute, what's the redeeming factors? Please explain.
I feel like the only redeeming factor is his like, come on, you're a smarter girl than that. You're smarter than that, blah, blah, blah. Do you need the man's approval? But also, like, Mute very much buys into that hierarchy thing, so I'm not really sure. I'm very confused. I don't know. Should we show it to her? Should we show her the one where Sojin is like, I'm not mourning at all, actually.
Say that again? You cut out.
What should we show Mute next? I feel like one of the Sojin ones.
Yes.
Just because I'm curious what she has. Well, if we ask about this one, we might know what the true mother thing is.
Yes. Well, no, that's the courtesan.
Right.
So I'm guessing they just made it so that they got adopted.
Right.
Daughter got adopted. Or, quote, adopted.
Oh, yeah. That's roughly a year.
Yeah. I'm curious what the drank himself to death one response will get from you.
Of course I was on the verge of tears. He meant a lot to me. I mean, you know, I'm just a computer. He wasn't family or anything, and it's not like I have the body for that kind of relationship, because relationships only count if you have sex. But still, he was the closest thing I had to a husband. We had a really close relationship. I really did love him.
Did?
Well, he is dead now. I definitely can't forgive her for not sincerely mourning his death or not taking it seriously. He was a great man. I'm just disappointed in her. It really is an awful confession. He really did deserve much better. So much better. Sigh.
Interesting.
So what should we show her next?
The mute one. The conversation he had.
Well, this is what I told him at the time. I could have maybe, you know, done without the description of her breasts.
Yeah.
But that kind of story was definitely pretty common for him. Part where he cleaned up after his family's mess. I mean, not the details about immoral-looking common women. And, well, the drinking too. But look, that part he had good cause for. Sure, it was his ruin, but you can't blame a man for that.
Yes, you can.
I mean, the stuff he had to put up with. If your brother had it like that, I'm sure he'd do the same. It wasn't all that bad, really. We'd spend a lot of evenings drinking together, talking long into the night. Well, he would, anyway. Obviously not really so much drinking on my part.
Retro drinking!
But he was the kind of man who'd still pour a glass for you all the same, so that he could have 2 glasses. So that whole sarcastic thing about him being a proper gentleman, it's not sarcastic, he really was. Well, he was being sarcastic, but still. He totally, absolutely was the best damn gentleman around. What was this one again? That one.
That one, yeah, that one. You could show it if you wanted.
Sure, why the fuck not? That's actually from before I knew her. It's pretty hard to imagine her as a blushing newlywed, honestly. She was an awfully good friend of mine. We chatted a lot. Look, I mean, don't get me wrong. She did a lot of things that were really wrong and really gross. I don't condone that, and I definitely don't understand it. I mean, I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. I just don't want you to think that I'm as bad a woman as she was or anything. Not that it could be cheating or anything. It's not like you can have love with just women, but still, gross. There's no such thing as lesbianism, apparently.
Wasn't there a whole, like, block that's dedicated between that relationship?
No, that's what she's talking about. It's not like you can have love with just women. Mute doesn't count that as real love. Because she was programmed by some very, very bigoted people. But please, look past all that. Like, yes, she was a bad wife, but you have to understand, it wasn't her fault. It's like what I reported to my mistress, Yu Jiehua. None of the problems in her marriage were her own fault. She was just the wife of a lousy man, plain and simple. Mostly, she tried to do the best she could. I don't want you looking down on her, understand? Even though, when we asked about something truly scandalous, that was the first thing she showed us. It really is a gossip.
Let her be bi and be happy.
Was she even bi? Oh, but she gave us more stuff.
Ooh! Laughable situation, daughter, and I'm sorry. Well, I assume daughter is going to be about the adoption.
Well, because you read the last one, right?
Yeah, I did.
So I'll read the ones from Sojin, and you can read the Sangmin.
Okay.
I cannot believe just 2 years ago I was actually excited about moving into the Smith home with my husband. Oh, how shortly that lasted. I find it funny. The first time I realized that I would have to compete for his affections with every common woman and every courtesan he came across, I was so shocked. The first time he brought one home, I cried for a week. Mother-in-law was furious with me, claiming it my fault for not being enough for him. Now I realize the insanity of her reasoning, as if she wouldn't have already known her son was simply that sort of man. The only person who had any right to be shocked was me. Still, I struggle for his attention, but now it is all but banal?
Banal, yeah.
Banal.
Banal.
If the truth is to be told, this is something I would not tell not mother-in-law, nor mute, nor least of all my husband. I do not even fight for his affections for his own sake. It's pure selfishness on my part. All I wish is for some indicator that it isn't as though I'm attractive, that it isn't as though I'm unlikable. Any affection he gets is simply an attempt at fishing that affirmation out of him and nothing more.
Oof. Oof.
That's a woman's got to do what a woman's got to do, but you should love yourself.
Oh, that's so rough.
Hmm?
I feel bad for her. At least a little bit.
I mean a little bit, in the sense that I feel a little bit bad for all the women in this society.
Uncle Daiho? Daiho?
I think that's Dai. Doesn't seem to be in here, but it sounds right.
Look, I'm sorry about our last conversation, alright? It's like I said to you before, you just caught me at a really bad time. Sojin was caught in bed rest in strict doctor's orders. I'm sorry that you brought your wife all the way to get turned away like that. When I told Sojin that you had given her well wishes on her pregnancy, she was happy, but sad she couldn't see you herself. Our child was just born last week. A daughter we decided to name her Minhee. Minhee. And Sojin was recovering well. So the doctor said that it would be fine for her to see visitors next.
I'm sorry, so I guess that this was the part where she had to pretend to be pregnant.
Yeah.
And so there were no visitors. But now that the child is born, they're given a little bit of time to fake it some more, and then... Yeah. Oh, you can see her again.
Next week. I'm sorry I got angry. If your wife still wants to see mine, or the child, or my mother, by all means, you're welcome to visit. I really hope there's no hard feelings, Uncle.
So I guess he also came to try to visit?
Yeah. Him and his wife came to visit to be like, oh, niece. No seeing the niece.
Wait, niece?
Oh, no.
That's not a niece. Yeah. For the past 2 months, ever since it became impossible to hide that she was with child, Jungmi has been living in our house and no visitors have been allowed to come in. This created an incredibly awkward state of affairs. I can hardly stand to be in the same room with that courtesan, let alone live with her. Until recently, so few words we have we exchanged, I did not even know her name until the 3rd week of her living here. My husband made me agree to go along with the fiction that the child is actually mine, which, well, I've yet to give him one myself, so if that is how I am to make up for it, then that is what I'll do. I thought it was going to be so hard to keep up that pretense, to pretend that this child is my own while the real mother lives under the same roof, yet apparently not. As it turns out, the whole charade has been for absolutely nothing. After all that, the child turned out to be a girl. Of course, I'm sure Zhangmi is quite happy since she's already been bought out, in the hopes that we could pretend her son was mine. But an illegitimate daughter, well, who cares? It would almost be funny if not for the fact that it means I will have to live with that constant reminder of how little my husband cares for me. Almost. But not really. Poor daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shut the mute.
And the daughter only lives for like, to the age of like 10?
High Magistrate Smith Sung-in, huh? Well, as High Magistrate, he was one of the highest-ranking officials until just before the end. I don't want to paint a misleading portrait. As I understand, he was a very just man and performed his function quite well. It was politics that caught up to him in the end. It's like I reported to my mistress, Yujue Jehua. He might have been a good magistrate, but his family conduct was less than the pinnacle of virtue. How many wives a man takes is no business but his own, and he never did anything illegal, but locking up courtesans owned by the court? Man, that's just bad politics. And just completely unfair for his primary wife. Ugh, can you imagine? So that's why he lost his position. Years of embarrassment in the family finally culminated in him turning into a real liability for the emperor. But it wasn't always like that. Here, let me try to paint an even portrait of him for you. I've added an assortment of logs about him. I hope this gives a good idea of what I mean.
Okay.
I like that she's just like, here, more info, more logs, because I want you to have an even fair understanding of who these people were.
Legendary temper.
From a clerk.
Now, I've been a clerk for a while, and it's not as if I haven't heard all the stories about High Magistrate Smith Sunmin and his legendary temper, but I always figured they were an exaggeration, especially after I met him for the first time. The man seemed like an absolute model of a gentleman, and rather calm and unemotional. Ah, yes. Men are supposed to have zero emotion at all times.
Okay, but men aren't supposed to be calm.
Beep. Boop. I'm not criticizing him. I just never imagined that man getting angry. It was while an official was presenting the facts of a murder case to him. Oh, I'm sorry for laughing at that.
I mean, I'm glad you're okay, heck.
but just imagine hearing me go, yes, men are supposed to be unemotional. Beep, boop, brap. Ow! Pain! Yeah, I understand. I've dropped phones on myself plenty of times. It hurts.
I have heard that this is the primary benefit of a pop socket, is just to give your hand something to anchor to, so that it doesn't fall on your face.
Yeah. It was a drunken brawl between peasants gone horribly wrong. It all seemed satisfactory enough. Doesn't mean I'd seen it. There wasn't really any doubt about it. So far, so good. Very well, the High Magistrate said. Let me read the confession, then, before I pass the sentence. The official didn't have one, which is reasonable enough. A lot of times, they can't get it out of them. I've never seen a magistrate who is really all too concerned about those little details. Excuse me? You don't have a confession? He said, and his mood soured right there. Why are you wasting my time, then? You looked at the accused, who had been kowtowing. Kowtowing?
Kowtowing.
Kowtowing?
Mm-hmm.
Words.
It's that thing where you're like bowing on the floor.
Okay. Silently up until that point. Do you even admit to killing him? The murderer seemed confused, and it took a minute to realize he was being addressed. Furthermore, when he did figure it out, he simply kept mumbling, "Not my fault, wasn't my fault," and the such. The High Magistrate was furious. "What is wrong with you? What is this man doing in front of me in a state like that? He doesn't admit to doing it. What do you expect me to do?" he demanded. After some silence from the official, he continued, "Wasn't a rhetorical question. Please, enlighten me. What do you expect me to do here?" "To punish him?" the official offered weakly, as confused about the matter as I was. As probably anybody who's listening to this would be. Like, we have all this evidence. Convict him. What does he say? "I didn't do it." Well, obviously he didn't do it. Punish him? This was what set him completely off the edge. He stood up shouting, "You're not given the responsibility of punishment? What are we, barbarians? Looking for vengeance? The point of justice is to teach immoral men like him the error of their ways," he lectured, shouting at the top of his lungs, which I will not do at 11:30 at night. "And how do you expect to do that with a man who won't even admit his own actions? Does this man look like he's ready to learn? Do you seriously believe that? Are you simple?" The official looked as though he was about to argue, but then thought against it. Smart move. The High Magistrate continued more calmly, "Now stop wasting my time and get him out of my office. Come back when you have a confession and a clue as to what your job actually entails." And with that, he left, leaving the official speechless, and leaving me realizing that perhaps a legendary temper and being a model gentleman weren't quite so mutually exclusive as I had thought.
Mute has something to say.
Beep.
Ironically.
Boop, beep. Boop.
Well, you've seen most everything about the Smith family now, except the most scandalous stuff.
Wait, what?
I'm sort of wondering what you think of their fall.
Did they have it coming or not? In my limited view, they seem like all terrible people.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is a limited view.
I mean, I feel like they seem like terrible people, but they also seem no more particularly terrible than the rest of the society they work in. Like, we already saw some of the stuff about the Kim family and, like, what Hyune went through and everything. So, did the Smith family deserve their downfall, considering what the other major noble family was like?
They didn't deserve it any worse than everybody else.
So?
Yeah, why did it happen to them and not any, like... I guess no, it shouldn't have really happened.
Yeah, I know. But after Sang Jung died, well, with him gone, it's no surprise things fell apart. Anyway, regardless of whether you think it should have happened or not, it was a pretty terrible thing to happen to what used to be the greatest noble family. And certainly they didn't deserve to be first brought down by the Kim family, then murdered by the Kim daughter.
Yeah, that's kind of like a
Maybe
kick
it's...
them while they're down moment.
I don't want to say that Sung Jin was lucky. That's not true. If he was around, maybe things would have turned out better. He always had a way of making things perfect. Still, I'd rather he be killed by his own habit than by that girl. He deserved better than what he got, but it would have been even worse if not for that, is I guess what I'm saying. I hadn't really thought about it that way before. Really, were he around, that's totally what he'd say. Practically imagine his voice even. The drink will inevitably kill you, and women will inevitably kill you, so I'd rather take the one that isn't always bitter.
Wow!
Or something like that. On one hand, wow, and on the other hand, oh, always bitter? It me!
Also, to you, wow.
What?
You're not always bitter.
You sure?
Yes.
What am I not bitter about?
Your goth Animal Crossing house?
I'm bitter that I have to pay millions of bells for it.
Welcome to the economy!
I'm bitter about the extent of capitalism and consumerism in this fictional depiction of a village filled with animals. I am bitter that as resident representative, I have to do all of the labor.
Look has entered the chat.
And I am bitter that Isabel does so much of the actual work for the good of the island and for the village, but gets only half the credit. And none of the glory.
She gets a Mercedes and a Mario Kart, and that's about it.
So what am I not bitter about?
And a Smash invitation.
Really, name something and I'll find something to be bitter about.
You I don't know.
A negative person? A pessimist? All of the things that people accuse you of being?
People have not called me a bitter person before.
Right, they just call you an optimist, sorry. Or something.
They just say I need to smile more because I look prettier when I smile.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's enough of all that. Also, is it just me or does Mute... Do I read Mute like Amanda? I feel like I read Mute like Amanda.
No, I don't hear Amanda in that.
I mean, Amanda's more nasally, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been trying really hard not to just fall into Amanda voice. Well, that's it. We have all of Block 3.
Now where's Block,
Oh, Block 4 has a new...
1, 6, 7,
Whoa.
8.
Block 4 is also completed. Holy fuck.
Wow! Letter, response, wait. Oh no.
Wait.
I'm just being dumb.
What?
For a second. I was like, wait. My brain was like, shouldn't they have been deleted? And I'm like, no, that's only letters written directly, like, by and for
Between women.
Yeah. So my brain went for this should be gone, and then I'm like, wait, no, I'm dumb.
No, men are too important for their letters to be deleted.
I forgot the rules.
How could you?
How could I? My goldfish brain would like a chat.
What? Goldfish Brain has entered the chat? Goldfish
Yeah.
Brain says hi to Tom Nook.
Quack.
And then says hi to Tom Nook again because it already forgot.
didn't see the message that he sent.
I guess we'll just go chronologically, yeah?
Yeah. Well, cause it's letter response.
Yeah. Oh, dearest brother of mine, as I'm sure you know, it's been 3 years since my husband died. I still mourn him in my heart, of course, and I'm sure I will forever, but the official mourning period's over. You probably also know that the Huang family isn't doing very well right now. Terribly, in fact, and it only got worse when my husband died. It didn't help that we only had daughters, so I don't exactly have a son to look after me. Right now, I'm completely at the mercy of his parents, and well, as I said, no son. They only took me in because of that big dowry. I'm sure they never liked me, and it's only gotten worse. Way worse. So I need you to help me out, or they're going to just abandon me. Do you remember that story we read together as a child about that widow who had to turn to begging? I'm sure you remember how it ended. That's going to be me at this rate. Don't worry, though. I have a plan. I've talked to my husband's brother about this, and also I managed to discreetly fish some information out of his parents. They'd be willing to let me get married to him, and all you need to do is chip in our new dowry. 1.5 times the old one would be enough. Please respond as soon as possible, little brother, because I really need your help here. Wow, they had a sister, and we just never heard about her.
Wait, who was she married to?
The Huangs.
Okay.
The Huang family. One that doesn't matter as much.
Apparently not. Well, basically a large sum of money that you hand over on the wedding night to the husband. Husband's family, I forget exactly which. Basically, they say, like, here is a bunch of, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be
Here's
money.
our daughter, and here's a bunch of money we're giving you to take our daughter.
Sometimes it was other
Sometimes
things, like,
it was gifts.
Sometimes it was animals.
Gifts.
Yeah.
Also, one sec, I'll be right back.
Also, 1.5 times. Holy crap.
Considering that they only liked her in the first place for having a big dowry.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll be right back.
Okay. It's only 1.5 times. Not a big deal, little brother. Just pay up so I can get married again. Yeah, this game is on Steam. It is Analogue and Hate Store. There's also Hate Plus. I actually don't remember. I think at one point it was on sale. It's not on sale right now. But I think it goes on sale during most of the Steam sales. I am kind of roped into a lot of this. I don't know a lot about dating sims other than what I've learned kind of here and kind of through our friendship. So I'm just like, let's play this game. Choosing this, and then I'm like, what is happening? But most of the games that we've played so far, actually, I think all the games we've played so far are all on Steam. Because we played Hot Tofu Boyfriend and Holiday Star. We've played Dream Daddy. We've played Hustle Cat. We've played a little bit of Monster Prom. Little Lily Princess, all of which are on Steam. So if you ever watch and decide, hey, this looks like fun, Steam. And most of these games get pretty cheap. To the point where I think I got gifted one or two of them for like a dollar or two. Steam, that platform that has almost everything. Come back. Oh wow, that was good timing.
What's up?
No, literally before you said that, I was like, come back.
Oh.
You're like, okay, I'm back.
Oh, actually, I did not find this game on Steam. I already knew about it, and I bought it at PAX? I think I bought it at PAX East one year. Along
Really?
with the... Yeah, well, because I had heard of this dev before.
Yeah.
And I had played... what was it called? The Sorry Babe... Or Don't Take It Personally, Babe, It Just Ain't Your Story, whatever game. That one. I had played that for free before, and so I had been interested in this one. And yeah. So I saw that they had a booth at PAX West, I think. I think it was part of Indie Mega Booth. And so I went over, and they had a deal, I think, that it was like $20 for this and $20 for the sequel, or like $30 for both, something like that. And so I just bought the codes for both there.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I knew about this one before I found it on Steam. It is a Steam game, though.
You are better at finding these games.
Hmm?
As you actively search for these fun dating sims.
I didn't actively search for this. I came across... Well, so that dev is actually... Well, the main dev on this is named Christine Love. If I remember right, she's a trans woman who once made a statement of like, haha, you make a dating sim where the people that you date are women, and men automatically think that it's for them. But she's, I think, decently well known among those things. I think I had just come across something about Digital Love Story, or that other one that's not a dating sim. I know I played those before I bought these. And it was because I really liked that non-dating sim one.
Was that before you got into dating sims?
I mean, There's a very loose definition of into dating sims.
Before you started playing a lot of them.
I think what you're trying to get at is before I actively sought out otome games. Because, like, even for dating sims, like, I usually play the more anime style, you're a girl who's dating guys. And they're generally all along the similar vein. I partially like them because it's like, as I've talked about before with you, dating sims for guys seem to tend to be focused on like, okay, appeal to this girl until you can get her to have sex with you. Dating sims for girls tend to be purely around like the romantic, and then only rarely make real talk of like sex at all.
Yeah.
It's never the goal. It's just kind of, that's a thing that they imply that couples do, because I guess most couples do that. But it's never like the goal. It's not really talked about that much. Except apparently for Mafia making comments. But like a lot of them, it's just
you didn't enjoy that scene of Cora learning to shoot a gun and
making endless innuendo with Karamia to the chagrin of Axel. No.
Yeah, wasn't it the best scene?
I just felt bad for Axel. Like, it's a series of sex jokes at his expense.
Yeah. It was
anyway.
Really awkward to the point where we're like, we don't know if we want to voice this.
Huh?
It was like, we don't know if we want to voice this.
I mean, sometimes we skip it because, ew.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes it almost gets so explicit. I'm like, are we allowed to have this on Twitch?
Yeah.
It's not depicting anything, which I think, like, in these cases, I guess it's kind of towing the line, but not perhaps explicitly against it. Oh, Twitch added a thing. Sorry, I just noticed underneath Twitch Studio, on actual Twitch, there's an add your social links thing.
Oh, hey.
You should do that, seeing as we now have social media since about the same time they added this. Anyway,
we should also probably continue.
We probably should.
As we also should probably wrap up at some point.
Probably.
Want to finish this block and then wrap up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sister Sunghi? Sunghi. Calm down. They may not be nice, but I'm sure they're not going to kick their son's widow out on the streets. Do you have any idea how terrible that would look for them? It'd be a huge disgrace on their name. It's almost midnight and I gotta be up for work in the morning.
Time zones.
Yeah, so, it's getting late for me.
Mm-hmm.
As I try to be a night owl, if I have to wake up at, like, early...
You're not me, after all. Last night, I was up until nearly 4 a.m. for the third day in a row, despite work.
What time?
Around 4 a.m.
So I could have responded to you when I woke up.
Probably.
Gosh dang it, you. As for remarrying, I'm sorry, but that's a lot of money you're asking. Besides, you know how much remarriage is looked down upon? Chaste widowhood may be a difficult standard to hold yourself to, but you'll be honored forever if you can manage it. If anyone is good enough to live up to that standard, I know it's you, big sister. Oh my gosh. See, I know if I didn't actively have to go into work, I would probably be doing the same thing, honestly.
I mean, I still have work, as you know.
Yes, but
I just make dumb decisions. But fortunately,
Yes.
I work from home and have somewhat loose working hours, so.
I have very strict working hours and have to leave the house.
I also start at 10 and work from home and live in California. So this works out for me.
Yeah. I started 8. It sucks. I wish I could give you an easier way out, but I hope you realize it's for the best that way.
Dearest sister, no. Be homeless. I don't give a fuck.
That's a lot of money. Just stay single. Bye.
Oh, generous and benevolent young brother of mine. I know you think I'm being hysterical and exaggerating. I'm not, I promise. It's funny you mentioned the importance of chaste widowhood because they're talking about that too. Of course, I don't think you've got the same ideas in mind. They're talking about the sort that ends in an honorable suicide. Actually, they've been talking about it a lot.
Oh my gosh!
We could, of course, go with that option. Take my own life to honor his memory. Would you like to help me out with that? I'm not really very good at either holding knives or tying nooses ever since the arthritis got serious, but if you could help out, that plan could work. If you're too busy to help your sister kill herself, though, you could just do the next best thing and send that dowry. I'm sure somehow you'll manage to find a way to find the money. I have faith in you, little brother. I remind you again, of course, that appealing to that family's honor is a waste of time. Father married me to a merchant, remember? You're talking about honor, but trust me, I've lived in this house for over 2 decades, and I've looked everywhere, even under the sitting cushions. They just don't have any. So I'm going to ask you once more, little brother. You can either send a new dowry, or failing that, come by with a nice sharp knife. But if you can't bring yourself to do at least one of those things, then my destitution is on your head. Do you think Father would be proud of that? You are the son. You tell me. With love, your sister, Sang-hee.
Wow! Oh my gosh! Sister, you're going to be the death of me. But I won't be the death of you. Fine, I'll figure something out. Tell his parents that I can offer them as much as the old dowry. I'll send a messenger by next week to work out the delivery of it. You're such a woman, do you know that? Manipulative to the core, that's what you are. The death of me, I swear.
Such a woman.
Wake up, full of energy.
What's waking up full of energy?
I'll probably be fully awake by 11 o'clock.
PM?
No AM. And then I'm probably gonna be ready for bed by 3 PM.
That sounds about right for you.
I actually don't know if we're doing a movie tomorrow or not. I don't know how often I'm getting roped into that. We'll see. But also, wow, these two!
Yeah? Oh, hey! We've reached 53% unlocked. Good job, us.
Pretty good. Yeah. I said that's pretty good.
All right. Now, does the 2-year-old need to go to bed? 2-year-old needs sleepy time. Sleepy bye.
Yeah. No, I do need to go to bed.
Yeah.
I have to wake
No,
up
I
in
mean,
like 6 hours.
You have work.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And you are also ahead in time zone.
Yeah.
And as I keep saying, ideally it would actually be the reverse time zones, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well,
thanks for joining us, Heck.
Help me find a job out there. And
Heck's been here so frequently. I'm so flattered.
Yeah. I'm very surprised that somebody managed to stand us this much.
Oh, yes. The night shall continue over here.
What, you're going to continue streaming?
No. I'm going to make dinner, and then I'm going to play Animal Crossing. And then if there's time, which there probably won't be at that point, I will play Final Fantasy. But that'll probably have to wait till tomorrow. Yeah, but I keep playing Animal Crossing for too many hours at a time.
Bye.
Bye.